The Midnight Traveler. It was a moonless night when Jack decided to take the shortcut through the old forest. Everyone in the town avoided it, but Jack was running late and couldn't afford the extra hour the main road would cost him. As he entered the dense woods, a chilling breeze rustled the leaves, and an uneasy feeling settled over him. Jack's footsteps echoed in the silence, and soon, he felt as though he wasn't alone. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision, and the further he walked, the more the path seemed to twist and turn in unfamiliar ways. He quickened his pace, hoping to reach the other side before his growing anxiety overwhelmed him. Suddenly, Jack heard the faint sound of a bell ringing. It was distant but unmistakable. He stopped, straining to hear more, and the bell rang again, closer this time. Panic set in and he started running. The sound of the bell followed him, growing louder with each step. Jack's breath came in ragged gasps, and his heart pounded in his chest. He stumbled upon an old, decrepit cabin that he had never seen before. Desperate for safety, Jack rushed inside and slammed the door shut. The cabin was dark, with only the faint glow of a dying fire in the hearth. As Jack caught his breath, he noticed an old man sitting in a rocking chair by the fire. The man looked up, his eyes empty and hollow. "Why are you here?" the old man asked in a voice that seemed to echo through the cabin. "I was being chased," Jack stammered. "By a bell." The old man sighed. "The Midnight Traveler," he whispered. "He rings his bell to guide the lost souls. Those who hear it are never seen again." Jack's blood ran cold. He turned to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. The ringing bell was now deafening, and it seemed to be coming from inside the cabin. The old man stood up and walked towards Jack, his form slowly dissolving into mist. Jack backed away, his eyes wide with terror. The cabin began to fade, and the last thing he saw was the old man's ghostly face, inches from his own. The bell's toll was the final sound Jack ever heard. The forgotten carnival. Lily and her friends stumbled upon an old, abandoned carnival on the outskirts of their town. It was a place of faded grandeur, with rusty rides and torn tents flapping in the wind. Despite its eerie atmosphere, curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to explore. The group split up to cover more ground. Lily wandered towards the funhouse, its broken mirrors reflecting distorted versions of herself. As she entered, a strange feeling washed over her. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the floor creaked under her feet. Lily made her way through the dark corridors, the only light coming from the occasional flicker of a dying bulb. She heard whispers, faint and indistinguishable, and felt a presence following her. Turning a corner, she came face to face with an old clown mannequin. Its painted smile was cracked, and its eyes seemed to follow her every move. Ignoring the unease creeping up her spine, Lily pressed on. She reached a room filled with more mirrors, but these were different. They didn't just reflect her image. They showed scenes from the past. She saw the carnival in its heyday, filled with laughing children and happy families. But as she watched, the scenes grew darker. The mirrors showed people disappearing, being lured into the funhouse by the clown. Lily's heart raced as she realized the clown wasn't just a mannequin. It was something more sinister. She tried to leave, but the funhouse seemed to shift around her, the exits vanishing. The whispers grew louder, and Lily saw shadowy figures moving in the mirrors. Panic set in, and she screamed for her friends, but no one answered. The clown's reflection appeared in every mirror, its smile widening into a grotesque grin. Suddenly, the mirrors shattered, and the pieces formed a path leading deeper into the funhouse. With no other option, Lily followed the trail. It led her to a hidden room, where the missing people were trapped in the mirrors, their eyes pleading for help. Lily felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She turned to see the clown, its painted face now a twisted mask of malevolence. Before she could react, it pushed her into a mirror. Her world turned to glass, and she found herself trapped, her reflection screaming silently as the funhouse claimed another victim. The clockmaker's secret. In a quaint village, there was a clockmaker named Henry who was known for his intricate and beautiful creations. His shop was filled with clocks of all sizes, each one a masterpiece. But Henry had a secret. His clocks were more than just timekeepers. They held the souls of those who had wronged him. Henry was a quiet man, but beneath his calm exterior lay a heart filled with vengeance. He had been wronged by many in his life, and he used his craft to exact his revenge. Each clock was a prison for a soul, and the ticking of the clocks was the sound of their torment. One evening, a young woman named Emily visited the shop. She was drawn to a particularly ornate grandfather clock. Henry watched her with interest. "It's beautiful," she said, running her fingers over the intricate carvings. "It's my finest work," Henry replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Would you like to hear its story?" Emily nodded, and Henry began to tell her about the clock's creation. As he spoke, the clock's hands began to move on their own, and Emily felt a strange sensation wash over her. The room seemed to darken, and the clock's ticking grew louder, almost deafening. Henry's voice took on a sinister tone as he revealed the clock's true purpose. "This clock holds the soul of a man who betrayed me," he said, "and now it will hold yours." Emily tried to run, but her feet wouldn't move. The clock's face seemed to melt, revealing a gaping maw that emitted a dark, swirling mist. The mist enveloped her, and she felt herself being pulled into the clock. She screamed, but no sound came out. Her vision blurred, and the last thing she saw was Henry's cold, triumphant smile. Inside the clock, she joined the other souls, trapped in an eternal nightmare. Henry continued his work, adding more clocks to his collection. Each one held a new soul, and the village began to whisper about the strange disappearances. But no one dared to confront Henry, for they feared the power of the clockmaker and his dark secret. The silent choir. In a small, isolated village, there was a church known for its beautiful choir. The voices of the choir were said to be so enchanting that people from neighboring towns would come just to hear them sing. But one night, the singing stopped, and the choir was never seen again. Years passed, and the church fell into disrepair. The villagers spoke of the choir in hushed tones, believing their disappearance to be the work of dark forces. One evening, a young man named Thomas, new to the village, decided to explore the abandoned church. Thomas was fascinated by the old stories and wanted to uncover the truth. As he entered the church, a chill ran down his spine. The air was thick with dust, and the once grand building was now a shadow of its former self. He walked down the aisle, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Reaching the altar, Thomas noticed an old, tattered hymnal. He opened it, and as he did, a soft, melodic hum filled the air. He looked around, but no one was there. The sound grew louder, and he realized it was coming from the choir loft. Climbing the stairs to the loft, Thomas felt a sense of unease. The loft was empty, but the humming continued, growing more discordant and eerie. He saw old choir robes hanging from hooks, swaying gently as if moved by an unseen force. Thomas picked up one of the robes, and a cold wind blew through the loft. The humming turned into whispering, and he heard the voices of the choir, pleading and crying out. "Help us," they whispered. "Free us." Suddenly, the church doors slammed shut, and the building seemed to come alive. The walls pulsed with a dark energy, and the whispering grew louder, more desperate. Thomas backed away, but an invisible force pushed him towards the organ. The organ keys moved on their own, playing a haunting melody. The voices of the choir joined in, their song filled with sorrow and pain. Thomas realized with horror that the choir's souls were trapped, bound to the church by a malevolent spirit. Determined to free them, Thomas approached the organ. He placed his hands on the keys, and the voices screamed in agony. The church shook, and the dark energy intensified. Summoning all his courage, Thomas played a countermelody, one he remembered from his childhood. The two melodies clashed, and the church's walls began to crack. The dark energy swirled around him, trying to stop him, but Thomas continued to play. With a final, triumphant chord, the dark energy dissipated, and the church fell silent. The trapped souls were freed, their voices fading into the night. Thomas stood alone in the ruined church, the weight of his actions settling over him. He left the village soon after, never to return, but the story of the silent choir lived on, a reminder of the power of music and the enduring strength of the human spirit.